Birthdays have always been sacred in my family, not in an over-the-top party-planning way, but in a quiet, meaningful tradition that my parents established when I was little. Every year, without fail, they would send me something special, not expensive, but thoughtful, something that showed they remembered who I was, what I loved, what mattered to me. So when the delivery truck pulled up to our house on the morning of my 28th birthday, I felt that familiar flutter of excitement. The same feeling I'd had as a child, racing to the door to see what surprise waited for me. My name is Alina, and I've been married to David for 4 years. We live in a cozy 2-bedroom house in Portland, the kind of place that feels like home the moment you walk through the door. David works in tech, I'm a graphic designer, and we'd built what I thought was a beautiful, honest life together. That morning started like any other birthday. David made me coffee in bed, kissed my forehead, and told me he loved me. He seemed normal, maybe even more affectionate than usual. When we heard the delivery truck, he smiled and said, "Must be from your parents, they never miss a birthday." I padded to the front door in my pajamas and slippers, signing for a medium-sized box wrapped in brown paper. My mother's careful handwriting spelled out my name and address in the flowing script I'd recognized since childhood. There was even a small drawing of a birthday cake in the corner, something she'd done since I was 5 years old. "It's from Mom and Dad," I called out to David as I carried the box into the kitchen, setting it on the counter next to my coffee mug. That's when everything changed. David appeared in the doorway, took one look at the box, and his face went completely white. Not pale white like he'd seen a ghost or like all the blood had suddenly drained from his body. "Don't open it," he said, his voice sharp and urgent. I laughed, thinking he was joking. "What, why not?" "Alina, I'm serious. Don't open that box." The tone of his voice stopped me cold. This wasn't playful teasing or fake suspense. This was panic, real visceral panic. "David, what's wrong?" I asked, my hand hovering over the wrapping paper. "It's just a birthday present from my parents." He moved closer, his eyes fixed on the box like it might explode. "Please can we talk first, before you open it?" "Talk about what?" I was getting confused and a little annoyed. "It's my birthday present from my own parents. Why would I need to talk before opening it?" David ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized as his tell when he was extremely stressed. "There are things you don't know. Things I should have told you." My stomach dropped. In 4 years of marriage, David had never been secretive with me. We told each other everything, our fears, our dreams, our embarrassing stories from before we met. The idea that there were things he hadn't told me was terrifying. "What kind of things?" I asked quietly. He looked at the box again, then at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Guilt, deep, consuming guilt. "Your parents," he started, then stopped. "God, Alina, I don't know how to say this." "Just say it," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "Whatever it is, just tell me. Your parents and I have been in contact for months. Without you knowing." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean, in contact?" "They've been calling me, emailing me. They've been trying to convince me to leave you." I stared at him, sure I must have misheard. "What?" "They think you're making a mistake being married to me. They think I'm not good enough for you, that I'm holding you back. They've offered me money, Alina, a lot of money. To divorce you and disappear from your life." The kitchen suddenly felt like it was spinning. I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself. "That's impossible. My parents love you. They've always loved you." "No," David said sadly. "They've always been polite to me. There's a difference." I thought about every family gathering, every holiday, every time my parents had interacted with David over the past 4 years. They'd always been warm, welcoming, inclusive. They'd treated him like a son. "You're lying," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew he wasn't. David had never lied to me about anything, and the anguish on his face was too real to be fabricated. "I wish I was," he said quietly. "I've been carrying this for 6 months, Alina. They started contacting me right after we bought this house. They said it was proof that I was trapping you, that I was preventing you from reaching your potential." "My potential?" "They think you should be living in New York or Los Angeles, working for some big design firm, not wasting your talent with freelance work in Portland. They think I'm the reason you're settling for less." I felt sick, and the money, how much money? David looked away. $50,000 to end our marriage and move somewhere far enough away that you'd never accidentally run into me. $50,000. My parents, who had always taught me that love was more valuable than money, who had raised me to believe that marriage was sacred, had offered my husband $50,000 to abandon me. "Did you consider it?" I asked, dreading the answer. For about 30 seconds, David admitted. Not because I wanted to leave you, but because I wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe I was holding you back. Maybe you would be happier without me. And then, and then I realized that decision should be yours to make, not theirs. Not mine, yours, but I was a coward, Alina. I should have told you immediately. I kept thinking maybe they'd give up, maybe they'd stop calling. But they didn't stop. No, if anything, they got more persistent, more creative. I looked at the box on the counter, understanding beginning to dawn. What's in there, David? He took a shaky breath. I don't know for certain, but your mother called me yesterday. She said they were sending you something special for your birthday. Something that would help you see the truth about our marriage. What kind of truth? I think, he paused, struggling with the words. I think they've been building a case against me. Documenting things, collecting evidence to prove I'm not right for you. My hands were shaking now. What kind of evidence? Photos, maybe, financial records, I don't know, Elena. But your mother was very specific about making sure you opened it when I was here to see your reaction. The pieces started falling into place. My parents' insistence that David and I visit them for every major holiday. Their sudden interest in our financial planning. The way they always ask detailed questions about our relationship, our future plans, our day-to-day life. I thought they were being caring, involved parents. But they'd been gathering information, building a case. There's more, David said quietly, more. The job offer. What job offer? The one your parents arranged, in San Francisco, the design firm that contacted you last month. The one offering twice your current income. I remembered the call, a prestigious firm I'd never heard of, offering me a position I'd never applied for. I'd been flattered but confused. I turned it down because David's job was here, our life was here, and the timing felt wrong. They set that up. Your mother told me about it before you even got the call. She said it was your chance to finally spread your wings, and that if I really loved you, I'd encourage you to take it. And you didn't tell me. I thought you should make the decision based on what you wanted, not on what they wanted. I thought if you took the job, it should be because it was right for you, not because they'd orchestrated it. I felt like I was learning that my entire life had been a performance, with my parents as the directors and me as an unwitting actor. Every choice I'd made, every decision about my career and my marriage had been influenced by their behind-the-scenes manipulation. I need to open this box, I said, reaching for it again. Elena, wait. No, my voice was firm now, driven by a cold anger that was beginning to replace the shock. They sent this to me, on my birthday. If they want me to see something, then I'm going to see it. I tore off the brown paper wrapping, revealing a white gift box tied with a silver ribbon. My mother's usual attention to detail. Even while trying to destroy my marriage, she'd made sure the presentation was perfect. Inside the box was a thick manila folder and a letter in my mother's handwriting. I opened the letter first. My dearest Alina, it began. By the time you read this, you'll finally understand why we've been so concerned about your marriage. We love you more than anything in this world, and we can't stand by and watch you waste your life with someone who isn't worthy of you. I could feel David reading over my shoulder, his breath uneven. The letter continued. The folder contains documentation of David's financial irresponsibility, his lack of ambition, and evidence that he's been keeping secrets from you. We've also included information about opportunities you've missed because of your commitment to a man who doesn't deserve your sacrifice. We know this is painful, sweetheart, but sometimes the people who love us most have to make the hard choices for us. It was signed with all our love, Mom and Dad, followed by a P.S. The San Francisco job offer is still open. We can have you moved and settled within 2 weeks. With trembling hands, I opened the manila folder. The first document was a credit report, David's credit report. How they'd obtained it, I couldn't imagine, but there it was, highlighting every late payment, every financial mistake he'd made before we were married. The next section was a collection of photographs. Pictures of David at bars with his coworkers, labeled with dates and times. Pictures of him talking to female colleagues, with helpful arrows pointing out inappropriate body language. Pictures of him spending money buying coffee, getting lunch, purchasing a gift for his sister's birthday, each one annotated with commentary about financial recklessness. There were printed emails between David and his friends, somehow obtained and taken completely out of context. A joking comment about married life was presented as evidence of unhappiness. A casual mention of an attractive actress was highlighted as proof of infidelity, but the worst part was the final section. A detailed analysis of my own life, comparing my current achievements to a timeline of where I should be. my income, my client list, my portfolio, all measured against some arbitrary standard they'd created and found wanting. Alina, David said softly, you know none of this means what they're trying to make it mean. I knew that, of course I knew that. The pictures were innocent, the financial information was from before we were even together, and the emails were clearly taken out of context. But the fact that my parents had gone to these lengths, that they'd violated our privacy so completely, that they'd been plotting against my marriage for months. I closed the folder and looked at my husband, really looked at him. David, who made me coffee every morning, who supported my career even when it meant financial uncertainty, who held me when I cried and laughed at my terrible jokes and loved me exactly as I was. Then I thought about my parents, who had raised me to be independent and strong, but who apparently thought I was too weak to make my own decisions about my life. Who loved me so much they were willing to destroy my happiness to save me from choices they disapproved of. I need to call them, I said. Alina, maybe you should think about this first. No, I need to call them right now. I picked up my phone and dialed my mother's number. She answered on the first ring as if she'd been waiting. Hello, sweetheart, happy birthday. I opened your gift, I said, my voice carefully controlled. Oh good, I was hoping you would. I know it's a lot to process, but where did you get David's credit report, Mom? A pause. A friend of your father's works in banking. We were just concerned about your financial future. And the emails, how did you get David's private emails? Another pause, longer this time. Alina, you're missing the point. The point is that you can see now. The point is that you've been spying on my husband. The point is that you've been trying to bribe him to leave me. The point is that you've been manipulating my career opportunities to break up my marriage. Silence. We love you, my mother said finally, her voice smaller now. No, I said, you love the idea of me. You love the version of me that makes the choices you would make, but you don't love the real me because the real me chose David. The real me chose this life, and instead of respecting that, you've spent months trying to sabotage it. We just want what's best for you. What's best for me is having parents who trust me to make my own decisions. What's best for me is having a family that supports my marriage instead of trying to destroy it. What's best for me is having people in my life who love me enough to let me be happy, even if my happiness doesn't match their vision. I could hear my mother crying now, but I felt no urge to comfort her. The woman who had wiped my tears and sung me lullabies had spent 6 months plotting against the man I loved. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. Alina, please just consider. I'm considering going no contact, I said quietly. I'm considering blocking your numbers and never speaking to either of you again. That's what I'm considering. The line went silent except for her sobbing. I need time to think, I continued. I need time to figure out if there's any way to forgive this. Don't call me, don't email me, don't contact David. When I'm ready to talk, if I'm ever ready to talk, I'll reach out to you. I hung up before she could respond and immediately blocked both my parents' numbers. Then I blocked their email addresses and unfriended them on social media. In the span of 5 minutes, I severed digital contact with the people who had raised me. David was watching me with a mixture of admiration and concern. Elena, you don't have to. Yes, I do, I said firmly. They crossed a line, multiple lines. They violated our privacy, they tried to manipulate our marriage, and they treated both of us like children who couldn't be trusted to make our own decisions. But they're your parents. And you're my husband. You're the family I chose. You're the person I want to build a life with. And if they can't respect that, then they don't get to be part of that life. Over the next few days, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. My parents had spent months building a case against David, documenting every minor flaw and presenting it as evidence of major character defects. They'd created a narrative where he was the villain keeping me from my true potential, and they were the heroes trying to save me. But the real story was simpler and more painful. They couldn't accept that I had grown up and made choices they wouldn't have made. They couldn't trust that I knew my own heart, that I was capable of choosing a partner who made me happy. David and I spent hours talking through everything. He showed me the emails they'd sent him, the increasingly desperate attempts to convince him to leave me. He showed me the bank transfer offer, the detailed instructions for how to quietly end our marriage. Why didn't you take it? I asked him one night as we lay in bed. Because I love you, he said simply. Not the version of you that your parents want you to be, not the version of you that might be more successful or impressive to other people. I love you exactly as you are, exactly as we are together. Even though they made some valid points about your credit score, I teased gently. David laughed. My credit score was terrible in college. I bought too many video games and didn't understand interest rates. but I've learned and we've built a good life together. Your parents just chose to focus on the mistakes instead of the growth." He was right. Every item in their folder was technically true but completely devoid of context. Yes, David had made financial mistakes when he was 22. Yes, he went out with coworkers because he was a social person with healthy friendships. Yes, he talked to female colleagues because he worked in a mixed-gender environment and was a professional adult. My parents had taken normal human behaviors and reframed them as character flaws. They'd taken past mistakes and presented them as current threats. They'd created a story where David was the problem, when the only real problem was their inability to let me live my own life. 3 weeks after my birthday, I received a package from my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. Inside was a letter apologizing for my parents' behavior, along with information I hadn't known before. Apparently, this wasn't the first time my parents had interfered in someone's relationship. When Linda was my age, she'd been engaged to a man my parents didn't approve of. They'd done similar things, not as elaborate, but the same basic pattern of manipulation and sabotage. Linda had eventually broken up with her fiancé, and she'd regretted it ever since. "Your parents think they know what's best for everyone," Linda wrote. "They mean well, but they can't distinguish between loving someone and controlling them. I didn't have the courage to stand up to them 30 years ago. I'm proud of you for being stronger than I was." The letter also included an invitation. Linda lived in Seattle, about 3 hours away, and she wanted David and me to visit. "You need family who supports your choices," she wrote. "Let me be that family for you." We drove to Seattle the following weekend and spent 2 days with Linda and her husband. They welcomed David warmly, asked about our life together with genuine interest, and treated our marriage like the partnership it was. It was healing to be around family who celebrated our relationship instead of trying to dissect it. "Your parents called me," Linda told me privately on our last day there. "They wanted me to convince you to read their letters. They've been sending letters to your old address, your work, anywhere they think you might see them. I told them you'd contact them when you were ready, if you were ever ready." I appreciated Linda's boundary setting, but I realized I did need closure. Not reconciliation, I wasn't ready for that and might never be, but closure. I needed to respond to their campaign of manipulation with my own clear statement of terms. So I wrote them a letter, one letter, clear and final. "Mom and Dad," I began. "I received your birthday gift, and I understand now how you really feel about my marriage and my choices. You've made it clear that you don't trust me to make decisions about my own life, that you think I'm too weak or naive to choose a partner who's right for me. You've violated my privacy, manipulated my career opportunities, and tried to bribe my husband to leave me. You've presented normal human flaws as character defects and twisted innocent interactions into evidence of betrayal. You've shown me that your love comes with conditions, and the condition is that I live my life according to your preferences rather than my own. I want you to know that David and I are happy, genuinely happy. We're building a life based on mutual respect, honest communication, and shared values. We support each other's dreams, we work through problems together, and we've created a partnership that brings out the best in both of us. Your interference has made us stronger, not weaker. It's shown us that we can weather external pressure and that our commitment to each other is solid enough to survive attempts to undermine it. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again. That will depend on whether you can accept that I'm an adult who's capable of making her own choices, even if they're not the choices you would make. It will depend on whether you can love me as I am, rather than as you want me to be. If you can do that, if you can truly respect my autonomy and my marriage, then maybe someday we can rebuild. But if you can't, then this letter is goodbye. I hope you find peace with the choices you've made, and I hope you can find a way to be happy without needing to control the people around you. I signed it simply Alina and mailed it to their address. Then I deleted their contact information from my phone and put everything they'd sent me in a box in the garage. Not thrown away, but removed from my daily life. 6 months later, I got a response. A short letter from my father, apologizing and acknowledging that they'd overstepped. He didn't make excuses or try to justify their behavior. He simply said they'd been wrong, that they missed me, and that they were willing to respect my boundaries if I ever wanted to try again. It wasn't enough to restore our relationship immediately, but it was a start. A recognition that they'd crossed lines and a commitment to respecting my autonomy going forward. David and I are still married, still happy, still building our life together in Portland. I've started working with some bigger clients, not because my parents arranged it, but because I sought out opportunities that excited me. David got promoted last year and we're talking about buying a bigger house, maybe starting a family. We've created traditions of our own. For birthdays, we give each other experiences rather than things: a weekend trip, a cooking class, tickets to a show we both want to see. Gifts that create memories rather than objects that can be weaponized. I think about that birthday morning often. How excited I was to receive a package from my parents, how quickly that excitement turned to betrayal and then to clarity. In trying to destroy my marriage, my parents accidentally strengthened it. In trying to prove that David wasn't worthy of me, they proved exactly the opposite. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you reveals the best thing about your life. Sometimes betrayal shows you who truly loves you and who only loves their idea of you. Sometimes a gift that's meant to hurt you ends up setting you free.